Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom and welcome to my workbench. You may remember the story of the Sketchy C64c. It came from a very sketchy source with a power supply that was basically non-functional even though I was told it worked. In order to get it up and running, to test it out, I spliced it into my Commodore 128 power supply. Not the best idea I've ever had, but it did get the job done. Today, I want to go back and rebuild that power supply properly. So as I'm off to say, I am not an expert in this by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just a retro computer enthusiast, and this project will be dealing with mains power. So if you're not comfortable playing with mains power, don't try this at home. If you haven't seen the video on the Sketchy C64c, I'll link that here, but this was the power supply, and it does not work. When I built the C128 power supply, I definitely overbuilt it. I used a Meanwell 45 watt 5 volt power supply for the 5 volt rail and a separate 9 volt AC transformer, and I had to wire them both into mains, and it's way overkill and way more complicated than it ever actually needed to be. For this, I'm going to go back to the old school, and I'm going to do it closer to how the original one was set up, except I don't feel like trying to solder diodes right to a transformer. Instead, I'm going to use a bridge rectifier, and I think that's going to work a whole lot better and should just be far more functional. So in this case, I've got the same 9 volt AC transformer, which has a 6 volt tap on it. I'm going to take the 9 volts and run them to pins 6 and 7, because that's where it's expecting 9 volts AC. And then off of one side of that, I will take one input for the bridge rectifier, and off the 6 volt tap, I'll take the other. And I'll put a fuse on that line. And I figure that works out best because I have one fuse, and whether the 9 volts or the 5 volts ends up pulling that to blow the fuse, it'll shut down the whole machine. Nothing will work anymore, so that should be a nice safety feature. Out of the bridge rectifier, we'll go to a filtering cap, 7805 to bring us back down to 5 volts from the 6 volts we'll have, and then another filtering cap, and we'll run those out to the pins. Positive and ground. Looks pretty simple. Now I want to see if I can fit it back in the original container. So here I am taking apart the old power brick, seeing if there is anything I want to or need to save from it. And quite clearly I need to take the power cable, but also this mount for the 5 volt regulator, probably going to be very useful. Additionally, I have our new parts here. 7805 1.5 amp 5 volt regulator, a 4700 microfarad filtering capacitor, a bridge rectifier. This is actually one I bought a bunch of when I did a repair previously. A fuse holder, which I'm going to add, wasn't actually part of the original design. I'm still debating if I want to put a hole in this case or not. A 10 microfarad capacitor to put after the 7805, and I've got a bunch of different proto boards, so let's see which one fits. I have a good feeling it's going to be this blue one. I've gone ahead and printed out my wiring diagram and taken out the 9 volt transformer. I'm switching to the larger head on the soldering iron because I need to remove some very large solder joints from the old transformer to get my power cable back. I'm going to let that heat up while I dry fit everything into the proto board. Once the soldering gun's heated up, we can take the input power cord off of the transformer, and then we can break into the C128's power supply and get our outlet power connector, the 7-pinned in connector, back. And then I realized a pretty significant design error that we need to go back and fix. This does not go here. This goes over here. Obviously. Well, since we all know I'm not one to hide my mistakes, I will go ahead and update this before we start building anything so we build it properly and I have a proper design. I'll also go ahead and add which cables on the connector I will be using for the connections. So now you can see we've gone in, moved the fuse to the input side because that makes way more sense than what I was doing. And I've got the 4 wires coming out of the connector, which connect up to what they need to. I don't need to worry about it. So, I am excited. And I caught my screw up before I built anything for a change, as opposed to after, when I usually catch things wrong. And now you get a soldering montage, until I do something stupid, like adjust the light so I can work better and block the camera.
Three 346 minutes later.
All right. See how it works. So I guess the real test at this point, plug it back in now that we've sealed it up. Still works. 64. And smoke test. Ready. That seems a little odd, but it's just ready. That seems very odd to me. That doesn't seem right.
Much later.
There we go. So that is the classic bad SID. Took the SID out. Seems to be working. VDD is reading 9 volts, just straight, clean 9 volts. I don't think it's anything to do with power supply. I've taken the SID out and it works. I'm cleaning it. There was a little bit of thermal paste that had squished down in between the things. I don't think that should have made a difference, but I'm giving this a real good clean. I cleaned that. I'm going to deoxit it. Give it a good round of deoxit and see what happens. I think I got everything. 580 R5. Deoxit that socket, right? Oh, now you want to work, huh? So I fiddled around with that for at least another hour that I didn't capture on the camera. At this point, I think it works, but I'm pretty sure that SID is marginal, just giving more credence to the Sketchy C64c being sketchy, besides, you know, the guy I got it from and the sketchy power supply, which is now rebuilt. The output I was getting off the power supply was perfectly fine. I got a clean 9.03 volts AC, which is about what I expect out of that transformer, not under a load. And the 5 volts was a clean 5 volts DC. And I even checked on the motherboard after the bridge rectifier that's on the motherboard, and the 9 volts DC that it presents was spot on. So I'm not blaming, or even considering blaming, the power supply for that one. I'm almost certain that there was already something wrong with that SID chip, so I'm going to keep watching it, see if it starts acting up again. Maybe it was just dirty, and cleaning the thermal paste off and deoxiting the socket got it working again. I'm hoping that's all it is, but I am going to start looking into some SID alternatives. So if you've got good or bad things to say about any of them, go ahead and put that down in the comments. I will read the comments and take that under advisement while I go looking for a SID alternative, because who knows, maybe it's bad, maybe it's not. Maybe it's marginal and it works a little bit. I don't have a 8-bit dance party of my own to put on there to test. For now, I'm going to call building the power supply a success, and I don't have to run 2 computers off the same power supply anymore. And if you think this put a dent in my dream of building a universal power supply, not even close, just proved to me even more that I need to do this again. If you've made it all the way to the end without clicking away, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'm so close to 200 subscribers right now. I'd really like to get over that before Christmas. I'm posting this up. It will be the 16th or 17th of December, so we got a week. I don't think that should be a problem. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and press that subscribe button in the center of the screen. I've also got a couple other videos I think you might enjoy.